Welcome back to the Watercolor Play series. I'm Mary Helen. I'm a transpersonal art therapist and artist, and I help people reclaim joy through creativity. This video is part of a Watercolor Play series where I'm taking you through some very simple, quick watercolor techniques that are playful and experimental, and a short video for you so you can just sit down and have a play with it without feeling overwhelmed. So today what we need is watercolor paper, some paintbrushes, a nice jar of a water, of course, and your watercolor palette. I always have a pencil because I like to write down what I've done, because when I come back to look at it, I probably won't remember how I did it or what exactly I did. So this is a nice way to make some ideas that you can have to return to. And today we're going to be working with gradients. Yeah, so we're going to do some gradients today. So we don't need any further materials, just what we've got. And I'm just going to write down gradient. That's how we're starting today. As always, I'm using 300 GSM watercolor card. You can use any watercolor card. And watercolor paper is really, sorry, watercolor paper, not card. It's the same thing, I guess. It's really thick, is what you want to use. Any type. Okay, so today we're doing gradients. So what's a gradient? Well, a gradient is something that starts from dark and then goes to light, or it transitions into a fade. So think about the morning sky or the night sky as the sun goes down or comes up. We see those beautiful transitions of colors. Oh, nature does it so well. And now let's have a play today. And actually that could be the inspiration, just sunsets or the morning sky, depending on which one you really feel inspired by. If you've seen my other videos, I do this technique or preparation a lot. I'm going to do wet on wet. So I'm going to wet my page first, and I'm going to separate my wetness a little bit on both sides. So I'm going to have a little mark in between. I'll put a bit of pencil there so you can see. Maybe you can't see that, but for you, just wet your page, and we're going to let that sit. This is how we're preparing our page. We're wetting it. And it'll be a wet on wet scenario, which means I'm going to bring a wet medium on top. And sometimes I like to just tip the water around so it transfers onto the page nice and even, or best that it can, just so I'm not pulling in the corners too much. Not that it matters, it's just wanting to get a bit of coverage. So let's do that. Again, just playing. You could not do that and see what happens. There are no mistakes here. Experiment means exactly what it means. We're testing stuff out, seeing what happens. All right, and so I think I've talked long enough that should be almost about ready. Now I'm going to prepare my pigment. I've been using blue, and so it's always ready to go. It's one of my favorite colors in this set. It's just so lovely. I wonder what color you'll choose. You can choose any color, right? So we're doing a gradient. So I'm going to start with just one color. So I'm going to start with my blue, and still got some water there. You know, alter it as you need. I'm going to go from light to dark. So I'm going to start here with the heaviest amount of paint. And you can see it's already naturally going down. If I hold it like that, look, it just naturally starts to make the gradient. I don't have to do much. It's doing the gradient on its own. But for the point of demonstrating the technique, we go dark at one end. Dark, 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 dark. As dark as you can get it. And then if I needed to, like if I hadn't already pre-wet my page, then I would be adding water to bring it down to the lightest iteration that I can get of that. And see, now I really did very little. I'm adding more water to like bring it back a bit. I really want to lighten that up. That's a gradient. That's it. Light to dark. I can add in more here. And obviously I'm just demonstrating this very, I'm going to call it foundational, not basic, because I think basic has a bit of a connotation with it, but this is just a foundational way to create a gradient. You could blot away the wet if you wanted, but for now, let's let it be. Okay, and now we're going to move on to two-color gradient. And I'm absolutely going to start with my blue again. So here we go, got my blue. Put that in there. And in a two-color gradient, I'm looking for both of them to have their own dark point and their own light point, and then meeting in the middle. Look, it's already going. What other color am I going to pick? Orange, because I just love the blue-orange combo. So I'm going to put the orange down here at its darkest iteration. It's brightest, darkest. Brightest, darkest. It's most vibrant. Yeah. Oh, it's gone on to the other one. How fantastic. All right. I want these two to meet in the middle, and so I'm going to use my paper to help me do that. And I'm going to do it like this. Bit of fun, bit of conversation happening on the other aisle there. So it's starting to get there. And now what I'm going to do is wet my brush and bring them together in the middle. So I'm lightening that up a bit. And I'm getting a lot of water on there. So this is where I might go in and dab it away a little bit. And then I'm going to dry my brush just a little bit and just kind of massage that a little bit. So when you're using a two-color gradient, usually they might mix in the middle and make a new color, like a tertiary color. Of course, orange is not a primary color, blue is. So orange is a secondary color, which is made up of yellow and red. So the way it's going to mix is it's going to make another kind of a different color, which I won't know until it's kind of finished. And I wonder if I should have really blotted it away, but it's okay. That's looking good. I'm going to add a bit more blue down here. Really want to darken that up so I can see my gradients happening. And yep, you know it, I'm gonna just go in the top here and add some more orange. There we go, those are my gradients. And so now, as always, we've got to hurry up and wait, meaning we just have to let the watercolor do its thing and dry. But that's a gradient, and that's a gradient with wet on wet. You could obviously do that starting dry by putting the color down and then adding more water to smooth it out along to create the gradient or transition from darkest to lightest. And I'm going to let that be. This is such a nice one to play with. You can do more than one or two colors. You can do many colors. And see what happens. So let's come back when it's dry. So let's give it a chance to dry, and I'll see you soon. All right, we're back, and our gradients are sort of dry for the most part. And yeah, it's really interesting to see what happened when I left it alone. So I can see this kind of edge that's been created, which I hadn't planned, but yeah, it's really interesting. I can see the gradient of the blue. I can see where I've had a little interaction there of blotting, and yeah, I can see the edges of the different colors and where they meet. And then there's this interesting color here, the mix between the blue and the orange, which I really like. So that's gradients. And yeah, how did you go? I'd love to see an image of what you came up with. You can send it to me on Instagram. I'm at Markham Movement. You can tag me there. And yeah, do like this video and subscribe to my channel, and check out the rest of my watercolor series, so that you can play with a bunch of other techniques and just get, you know, lots of different techniques in your wheelhouse, so that when you sit down to do watercolor, you've just got some things that you already know to do. So thanks so much for joining me, and do check out the other videos, and I hope you really enjoyed having a play with watercolor.